As the series goes on, most characters in said series will begin to experience some form of design change, or they'll look differently from how they did at the beginning of the series. Either they change physically, or the artist's style has evolved over the series run. This is especially true for the case of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Be it the distinct differences between Josuke at the beginning of Part 4 and Josuke at the end of Part 4, or Jonathan's metamorphosis into a brick fucking wall. And this is because Hidehiko Araki seems to be able to allow himself to change up his style as he writes a part, allowing the series to grow and change naturally with him. As he describes it, JoJo helps him evolve as an artist. And yet, no character over the 30 years JoJo has been running for has topped the amount of change one character went through in such a short amount of time. This character being the prisoner number MA28050, the convict serving 12 years for murder, and technically the first lesbian in JoJo, Narciso Anasui.
It's a fine day, just escape from a bad dream.
So, in the original plans for Stone Ocean, Anasui was supposed to be a woman, and for a brief period of time, actually was one, specifically from chapter 24 to 58. Yet in chapter 59, Hidehiko Araki decided to implement a major change to that character. He changed their design, their face, and most noticeably, their sex. Anasui was now a man, and the series would now treat them as if they had always been a man and had never been a woman. So much so that the chapter name for this specific chapter was changed in the re-releases of Stone Ocean in order to attempt to avoid confusion. As the original chapter name was Murderer Rise, it was later changed to His Name is Anasui, both a nod to the Part 5 main villain, Diavolo, who Anasui takes a lot of visual inspiration from, but also to clue in the readers to the change so it wouldn't be that much of a surprise and you wouldn't think that they are a new character. Now, why was this change implemented? Well, to give you an honest answer, there is no real explanation right now, as at this exact moment there hasn't been anything stated onto why the character was changed, and anyone who says otherwise is fucking lying. But I hope that if we ever do get Jejonians for Part 6, Araki goes into detail about this specifically. But some fans have passed around the idea that it was Araki's editor telling him that they can't have a lesbian character in Jump. And looking into the bits of information that we do have about Araki and his editors, that situation might not be too far off of the truth. So, it's no secret that Araki thinks that the Jump editorial staff at the time was really harsh and scary to work with, but he did in fact learn to work with them, and he learned to get away with his own personal brand of bullshit.
Like literally changing Stone Ocean's ending on the fly, last second, without telling anyone, and no one really cared.
So it's up in the air what Jump editorial staff actually cared about when it came to Araki's writing. From Araki's perspective, what the Jump staff seemed to care about the most was the design of characters, aka which character they can slap on the cover and sell copies, and what would go into the series itself themes-wise. And well, Part 6 was already pushing the limit for Shonen Jump standards. As Araki puts it himself, he wanted a story that would feature a female protagonist who could, as he describes, take a punch, and the magazine at the time was lacking such a thing.
あの当時やっぱりこう女のキャラクターがパンチ食らったりするっていうのはありえない時代だったんですよね。うん。あとなんだろう、下手したらジョジョって腕とか飛びますからね。そういうのを女性のキャラクターには書けないような気がしたんですよ。読者も多分ついてこれないような感じだったんですけど、そのなんかいろいろこう人生を重ねていくと女の人も男の人も同じなんだろうなと思い始めて、この時にでタフな女の子が描ける感じがしたんですよ。それでまあ始めようと思ったのがストーンオーシャンで、これも刑務所に限定しようっていう。
And this choice was already pushing it for Jump, but because Araki had a good track record with JoJo, and because Jolene's design was actually really good for drawing in a new male audience, they let it slide. And this leeway allowed Araki to begin to experiment on how far he could actually go with this. And being the little devilish limit pusher that he was, began to play Jenga with his cast. Starting with a base of Jolene, then stacking on Hermes, above that Anasui, and then Foo Fighters on the top of the tower. and then the tower came crumbling down. Because you see, around the time that Araki introduced Foo Fighters to the series, it had already been running for a decent amount of time, with roughly 34 chapters under its belt, or more than a half a year of runtime. And Jump likely had had enough with Araki's experimentation. You see, this wasn't just them stepping in because of a lesbian character. Part 6 also wasn't connecting right away with the Japanese shonen audience, and this was likely due to Araki's experimentation with his own series, given that it had an American setting featuring a half-American character who was a female lead who was trapped inside of a stationary setting with a relatively slower pace, and the only character that the veteran readers could actually connect with was returning for his 4th time in the series overall and was systematically written out of the story, while the only other male protagonist was a stoic and quiet weather report who had done nothing up to this point, and now Araki seems to be having plans about Anasui, another female character, having a romantic subplot with Jolene, the lead, to create a Yuri subplot within their Young Boys magazine in 2001. I think we both can see why they might wanted to have toned down a bit of the risk factor with the series and play it a little bit safer. I honestly imagine if Part 6 was doing well in the magazine, that they wouldn't have stepped in at all. And all of these unfortunate events didn't really mix too well to help Araki's case either. So, it likely wasn't a case of, no Araki, you can't have a lesbian in our shonen manga, and more of, no, Araki, we have to play it safe. The series isn't doing well. You can keep the romance subplot, but you gotta change the character. So Araki likely took the easy out, taking the mostly off-screen and not properly introduced Anasui and morphing them into the man we know now, allowing him to keep his original story plans and not having to introduce a wholly new character. And these changes to Anasui's appearance actually weren't just brushed under the rug, and they played into his introduction actually. As you see, Araki drew him very effeminate looking, and even had Foo Fighters question his sex when she met him, though the design was really only done to make the change appear more natural in the universe, especially given after the chapter, Anasui loses all of these effeminate features and becomes a lot more masculine. I assume at that point Araki just was done and just wanted to move on from there. He had his quote-unquote new male character, and with this character came the introduction of his stand, Diver Down, which plays into this situation shockingly well. Because you see, Araki's choice of the name Diver Down for the stand I find very interesting, as the name itself is in reference to the Van Halen album Diver Down, and this album was actually very controversial for one of its major hits, Van Halen's cover of Oh Pretty Woman. It was made controversial because it was the first Van Halen music video to be banned off of MTV for featuring a transvestite, something that was very shocking for the 1982 audience at the time. This controversy actually plays very strongly into the controversy surrounding Anasui's sex, so it was likely that Araki chose Diver Down as a little wink and a nod to himself and the people who read too deeply into stand names, because, I mean, besides that, Diver Down is actually pretty barren music-wise. It's likely the most direct stand name to ability we've seen in the entire series, because, you know, it dives down into things. And I do wonder from time to time what type of character Araki would have made if Anasui was allowed to be kept as a her. I mean, Araki did appear to be pretty serious about her design at first. He already had a cover page featuring her on it mere chapters after her introduction, and even her name was derived from two major female fashion legends, Anasui, a popular American fashion designer, and Narciso Rodriguez, the head of the Narciso Rodriguez perfume and clothing fashion line. But then you have to realize that if Araki really did care deeply enough about Anasui being a woman, and he felt that it truly mattered as an aspect of her character, he would have fought for it like he did with Josuke's overall design in Diamond Is Not Crash, which he had to fight for quite a lot. Which means that Anasui's role in the story of Stone Ocean likely wouldn't have been much different, so that's at least a positive aspect of that change. But I can't help but wonder what female Anasui's stand would have been. I mean, given that Diver Down is more connected to the sex change than it is anything else, it might have been something different. Though another positive aspect actually hidden within this change is the fact that this limitation might have been the wake-up call that Araki needed. As you see, being told what he can and cannot do, and finding the limits that he can push to, actually might have helped give him the courage to move away from shonen manga in general. Given that after part 6 ended, he chose to jump to Ultra Jump and to seinen manga. And with that, he actually introduced his first official lesbian/bisexual character in JoJo through Scarlet Valentine, which Scarlet might have actually just been Araki testing the waters to see if seinen and shonen manga had the same limitations. And, well, ever since then, Araki just seems so much happier and freer with his writing, and it's possible that Anasui is the one who helped Araki develop that bit of inspiration to finally move up in the world. But again, this is all speculation. It's on the part of a fan and a few interviews I've read about Araki and his experiences with the Jump editorial staff. And until Araki actually comes out and says the story behind the change, no one but Araki can be 100% sure about what happened. Though if you are 100% sure that you want to help support more videos like this in the future, I have a Patreon at patreon.com/MeddieNotTheBadGuy. And if you're planning to change your sex, well, I can recommend the perfect housewarming gift for your new genitals. That being Shimonetta, a boring world where the concept of dirty jokes doesn't exist. Funimation.com/show/Shimonetta, a boring world where the concept of dirty jokes doesn't exist. Pick yourself up a copy of Shimonetta.